I have a special guest for you today. The journey that he's going to share with us today took him from feeling frustrated with his life and not really knowing how to fulfill his full potential to being a huge success as an entrepreneur running his own business. And he's going to share with us the framework that he developed in retrospect, looking back at how he did this transformation, that you'd be able to do this in your life. Brilliant.
When I had that discovery, that realization that the line in the sand has been drawn, first, I made the choice, right? I said, okay, I am going to do this. That's significant. The choice, the decision to make improvements of my life. Then it took a very honest self-assessment. Well, Josh, let me see what I'm doing from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, small, medium, and large habits, patterns, beliefs that are just not serving me. And let me honestly look into this. And I mapped it out and I said, well, there's some obvious ones. I probably shouldn't be doing that every single night. I might want to reconsider how I approach this in the morning, or I see, oh, this is a little bit of a trigger. I'm aware, right? So getting aware of what's happening, what's triggering you, why you engage in certain patterns, habits, and activities, and what's happening around you. And I said, I am going to slowly but surely, I'm not going to do I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 5 days routine. We know how that works out. So I said, I'm just going to take it one slow step at a time. I know I can do this, and I'm going to prove to myself that I can. So I started just replacing one habit, pattern, or belief with a slightly better one. Make a better choice. And you do that for a little while, some days, some weeks, whatever it is. And then you start seeing the win. And you're like, wow, I can do this. And I've done it and I'm doing it. And it feels great. Now let me try this. And I can go into something called F that noise, which became my mantra, because what I'm talking about is we all have this noise in our head that plays over, that keeps you where you are, not going forward, because we all know what we are capable of doing. You know what you can be doing and should be doing. You're just not. And I've been there.
I think one of the beautiful things that happen once you sit behind a microphone, you allow yourself to become vulnerable openly. And that opens the door for so many other people to approach you and be very open and candid with you. Just like you said, it's a mirror image of what you project. How many people approach you? How many people talk to you openly about these kind of situations?
More than you can imagine. And it's been surprisingly wonderful to get that feedback. Because when I first spending the lifetime fearing the retaliation or something similar and not wanting to fully express what I was capable of, and desperately hoping for someone to say, yo, Josh, you got it. Come on out, express, it's safe here. But nobody's going to say that unless you're already displaying what you're capable of, because you're not going to attract the right people to do that. So once I was able to slowly step out and into what I'm capable of expressing, not only are those negative people nowhere to be found, I'm able to surround myself with the people who I'm speaking to, and the reflection and the confidence and the power and the co-creation of everything we're doing. So anytime I talk on a podcast or on a stage or on a video or what have you, or in person somewhere, just so many people resonate with the message. We sometimes don't know if we're sitting behind social or behind a video and we put something out and we might think, nah, nobody really reacted to that because I only got a few likes, or nobody really commented on. You'd be surprised how many people are actually engaging with it and are affected by it quietly. So you have to find your way to trust that. You just have to keep putting out versions of your message, of your story. And as long as it's legit to who you are and it's in line with what you believe, trust that It doesn't matter how many likes you get. These things are going to accumulate on each other. People are watching. People are listening. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens over due time, a few months, a couple of years. That's not a long time. As long as you find what it is for you, your voice, your message, and just keep coming out with it and find different stories around the message. I find that people are always coming up to me and saying, I've been there. I get it. Even if you have a very unique story that you're like, oh, no, 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 nobody could have really experienced this kind of thing. Fine, but we could get that type of thing. We understand that, oh my gosh, I have my own version of that. I get the point of your story. So my journey wasn't exactly the same, but man, I like where you're going with this. I resonate. I relate to you. I love you. I want to be with you. I want to work with you. I want to talk with you. And that's when the magic happens. A year ago, I found myself invited to a podcasting event where I was recording episodes of my show, randomly matched with other entrepreneurs to interview. Eric Cabral, didn't know him at the time. He was matched to record an episode of my show with me. We recorded. And after the episode, he said, you know, I'm from Jersey. You're from Jersey. I have a studio in Jersey. He says, why don't you come down and check it out one day? And I said, absolutely yes. And we vibed, we connected, we spoke. I checked out the studio. I kept showing up. I never left. I saw that he was doing some very similar things to what I wanted to be doing. And I'm like, this is amazing. He has a lot of the same goals and dreams as I have. He's here. I'm here. We hit it off. It was great. And now cut to today. If I wasn't the person that I needed to be to attract the success that I desperately wanted, and worked to that end, I never would have been in the position for Eric to say, hey man, I like you. I get what you're doing. Why don't we hang out? Why don't you come down one day? Which ironically is all I ever wanted somebody to say for 40 years. But guess when it happens? It happens when you first show up in anticipation of it happening. It's that simple.
So 3 people I think impressed me the most through PodFest. And I never told you that, but you were one of them. The other was Chris and Dave Chappelle, who was the keynote speaker at the end of the event. He said, what's the difference between the really successful people and the one that do okay? And I'm like, okay, what's like, give me something. And he's like, they always show up. They always show up. And now you start connecting the dots. You're starting to think of all the people you and I consider successful. And it doesn't matter successful in what.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter if it's Elon Musk or Gary Vee. 2 very, very different individuals. They always show up. How do I take this process mindset and apply it in a business environment?
Simply by doing it. And what I mean is, you start at the top of the show outlining my digital marketing agency, which I spent many years, 10 plus in that role, but even more building websites prior, but 10 plus years serving the professional pet industry. And I was at my worst personally in those moments, literally, yet still was able to, yes, reach 6 figures, but it was short-lived and then it all went crashing down. But the point is, for 10 years, I was beating my head against the wall, struggling through this business, trying to continually keep the lights on, make ends meet, sometimes dim, because even the 6 figures we did make, a lot of that went out to employees and contractors, and then it never returns, right? There's always more to the story, isn't there? So with this regard, 10 years serving the professional pet industry as a quote unquote thought leader and building websites and teaching how to gain more traffic and SEO and clients and how to serve them productively. I was at my worst. So I attracted my worst. I just kept hitting a wall, and I'd come up with a product or a service or a solution and it wouldn't land. And it was just a day in and day out frustration all out because of who I was. I was miserable. I wasn't my best. I was all out of sorts because I wasn't operating as my true potential. And I tried to continue down that path. So how does it apply to business? Until I was able to get myself right. So I actually had to sort of rip the Band-Aid off that digital marketing business of mine because I saw it for what it was. It had become a toxic relationship like any other. And I was ready to evolve, to move on, to grow. And it couldn't happen in that quote unquote relationship. Took a couple of months. I said, I don't know what's next, but let it sit. The hidden entrepreneur brand came about. I said, yes, okay, that feels right. I get it. I see what my story is going to be. And I said, a podcast. I don't know. I've never had one before, but I feel like I can do this well. And I will keep my eye out for opportunities because I've always been capable of that, but never reached for them. But now I will deliberately attract them because of who I am and see what's what. 1 episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes. Now, hundreds of episodes, and I'm meeting the right people. I'm doing the right things because of who I am on the inside. So how does it attract to business? It completely attaches to business by you being the person first that is capable of creating the business and attracting the lifestyle and results you want. In looking back as to, okay, what exactly did I do? Have I done? I realized that the mantra F that noise played a part. And here we're talking about, yes, the noise in your head, but noise also became the 5-part acronym, NOISE. And I'll break down and give you a brief overview of each one so you can do this. It's a practical exercise. It all comes down to the emotions we're feeling. So first, we're going to be able to identify the predominant emotion that day in and day out just overtakes you, often habitually. And before you know what's happening, you're experiencing this emotion. So first, what we're going to do when we're talking about the emotion is the N. We're simply going to name the emotion. Get familiar with it. Put a name to it. Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it jealousy? Is it loneliness? Is it anguish? Is it depression? Whatever it is, name that emotion that just keeps rearing its ugly head. And then once we do that, we're going to own that emotion. We're going to take it on for ourselves. It's not about anybody else changing. This gives you the power, you the ability to make the adjustments you need to make. It's not, well, if they stopped doing that, well, if she didn't do this, well, if he just said this differently. No. Own the emotion. It's all yours. Then the I is you are going to identify with it. It's an admission, right? So you are going to identify it. It's a personal thing. You're not expressing this to another human being. It's for you, for your higher power, whatever you resonate with there. You're going to identify with it. I am angry. I am depressed. I am scared out of my mind. I am so frustrated. I'm lost. I'm confused. I'm jealous, whatever that emotion is. Identify it, right? Then once you do that, you are going to move to the S. You are going to sit with it. Now, this doesn't have to be a very, very long process. It could be some days, maybe a week or two, but what's the purpose of sitting with it? Now that you've gone through the N, the O, the I, now you're on the S, you're just going to be able to consciously and deliberately figure out when it arises. Does it predominantly show up, again, most often habitually, without even you realizing, oh my gosh, now I am engaged with this emotion? Is it around a certain person, a certain topic, a certain time of day, a certain place? What is really triggering this emotion? And the more you sit with it, you are now creating a distance between you and the event. So now you're becoming aware of how, when, where, why, and how it arises, that eventually you could put some distance between it. And when that happens, you could take a step and say, oh, okay, wait a minute. It's about to show up. I get it. And then you learn some techniques to keep it at bay. And then you successfully move on to the E, which is you evolve into the person you've always known you are.